Thank you so much for having me, guys. So listen, I'm very much not a methodologist when it comes to fake information. I'm a more consumer of fake information. I'm not really a consumer of fake information. I mean, my research, let's put it this way, professionally and recreationally, I love food. And so I study food intake, and there is a lot of misinformation in food. I study obesity, and there's a lot of misinformation there as well. So a lot of what I have to talk about has come from coal-face, such as it is work, of trying to actually put forward messages about people's body size, weight stigma, as well as truth around that. So that's a caveat, but that's also an explanation for why I'm here. And this presentation is very much directed to the academic. Everyone sat in this room, and our responsibilities, I want to argue, in terms of sharing science, and how much are we actually to blame for part of the situation we find ourselves in. Anyway, so that's the summary, so to speak, the abstract for that. And so I'm here to talk about research. Why does it matter? I may or may not get to how do we share it. Don't worry, I won't go over the time. But hopefully, and then I will leave time at the end for questions, whether or not you agree or disagree with me or not. So I always start with this. 1998 was a remarkable year in very many ways for a couple of different reasons. I got my PhD in 1998. That's not the reason. I know. I ended up with my 20. How can I shut up and stop segueing? I got my 25th anniversary thingy at the Botanical Gardens for working at the university. Where's my golden roller? Right. Anyway, it was a. That's not the reason. In 1998, there were two movies about asteroids barreling towards Earth to destroy it. Now, since 1998, there were another two, Greenland and Don't Look Up, for those of you who look at these things. But in 1998, there were two. The first one was something called Armageddon. Okay, it had Bruce Willis, Liv Tyler, and Aerosmith track. It was crap. It wasn't crap. It was unrealistic. It was unrealistic. Okay, I love a good Michael Mann show as much as anyone else, but it was unrealistic. The second movie was Deep Impact. Now, you may or may not have heard of Deep Impact. You may not see it now streaming on Netflix. Other streaming services are available. But I've seen this movie more than 10 times. Okay, and the question, yeah, exactly. You see that you just looked at me. I know exactly. So the question is why? Why have I seen this movie more than 10 times? So let me set this up for you. For those of you who haven't seen it, the people. It's a Hollywood movie. Okay, so it's an Americanized movie. And so the setup was this: we had 2 years' notice before the asteroid was to come to smack into Earth. And so everyone had their own solution. The American solution was to dig a big hole in the ground, okay, somewhere in the middle, Cheyenne or somewhere, and so that there was space for people. But for narrative tension, there was only enough space to save 1 million people. So here's the thing. If you only had space to save 1 million people in order to keep human society function, who would you save? Okay, this is why I always go back to this. This is otherwise known as the Ark conundrum, Noah and the Ark conundrum. So first of all, what did the movie say? The movie said anyone above 50 was toast. You're not allowed on the Ark. So I would have been not allowed on the Ark. But then the question, but then you obviously need some engineers, doctors, farmers, architects. You get the idea. Would I have been let on the Ark? Okay, this is the question. I'm a geneticist by trade. So imagine there's a long line, there's a bloke with a clipboard, because there's always a bloke with a clipboard, okay, lining up there and asking, what do you do? Okay, like a formal hall, what do you do? And you have and there's a long line behind you, you have your 5 seconds to explain your research topic to this human being about whether or not you're going to be let on the Ark, okay? And so I study genetics. No one is ticking any box yet. And if I then say, however, I study the genetics of obesity, which is what I study, back in the line, I'm never going to be allowed in. And so the question is, would you guys have been let on the Ark, okay, just as a piece of scientific communication? Now, if your answer is, for example, what do you do? And you're a PhD student here in Cambridge in the Department of Biochemistry, for example, and if your answer is, I study the hinge domain of the protein, dude, you're not going to get let on the Ark. So how do you explain your work? Not to the bubble, and this is the critical thing, not to your conference bubble in which we can speak and claim on, right? Because all of us understand all the acronyms, okay? But to people who have zero idea or maybe zero interest in what you're doing in order to express the importance of what it is you're doing. Now, this is related to this whole concept of misinformation. Part of it is how we, as academics, are actually trying to share this information. So this is Neil deGrasse Tyson. And for those of you who don't know him, he's an American astrophysicist, and you can read this, right? The critical bit is in the middle. That's the good thing about science. It's true whether or not you believe in it. And in many ways, that's true. I don't believe in gravity, but if you step off a cliff, you feel the full weight of gravity in spite of whatever you believe. So this is fair enough. However, there is a bit of nuance underlying this, which I think bears unpacking, okay? And so, because very often, science is pitted against faith. This is in no way an anti-religion thing at all, okay? So let's define, what's the definition of science? So science is empiricism. You look at the data, whatever it might is, you assess it, you look at your decisions might shift, they change, whatever. We know what empiricism is, okay? What does faith mean? Faith, the Oxford English Dictionary explanation for faith, is the belief in something you don't necessarily understand. That is the definition, textbook definition of faith. And so how do we, as card-holding empiricists, have any faith? It's impossible. I have to fully understand what it is because of the data before I believe in whatever is there. Except that we scientists here, not all of you are scientists, but academic scientists, have to take a leap of faith outside your field of speciality every single bloody day, okay? You do. Because everyone is an expert in their own little patch of real estate. Now, this patch of real estate could be small, it could be big. It could be very technical, it could be parochial, it could be cerebral, it could be whatever. But we're all experts in something. And we spend our entire lives, every single day, okay, stepping into other people's fields of expertise every single day, so that society functions. Okay? This is what I've just said. So for example, driving. Okay? Now, promise you there will be a relevance to misinformation. Okay, so for example, driving. Now, when I drive my car and I put the foot on the brake, I have zero fear my car will stop. Okay. Now, do I understand how brakes work? I mean, broadly. There's a disky bit, there's a little grippy bit. Somehow it's connected to my foot. You don't want me hooking up the brakes to your car, but yet I have faith. I believe that the person who sold it to me, the person who serviced it, knew what they were doing. Okay. Evolution through natural selection. Now, I happen to be a geneticist, so maybe I could look at the raw data, but most of us, not enough of us, but most of us do understand that evolution through natural selection, broadly speaking, explains why the hell we're here and focusing on this, for example, here, okay? But we all have faith. We believe that the people who knew what they were doing when they actually looked at the data sort of came up with a plausible hypothesis. That can shift, but plausible hypothesis. Flying. Now, when I drive down past Heathrow, and you see these aluminium, titanium monsters that actually fly. I mean, the closest thing I can get to is magic. But I don't think that's the aeronautical explanation to why planes fly. But yet we all have faith, we believe. So my point is this, okay? How do we square this empiricism versus belief? Now, clearly, listen, we're all in Cambridge. Consensus is key. We farm out expertise. That's what we do. That's how it functions. We farm out someone else is a brake expert. I hope they know what they're talking about. They empiricize, that's not a word. They empiricize so they actually get to the good brake. And I get it in my car, and I'm very happy with my brake. And this is true about pretty much everything we do. Whatever it is we're expert at here, whatever it is, okay, we will be tasked with empiricizing, I don't know, made a new word, empiricizing whatever it is here. Here's the issue, okay? Consensus takes a long time. And here's the issue, that science was never designed to be quick. Never, okay? Now, it's a bonus if it's quick, it is. But science, as long as you ask the right question, now this is the caveat, as long as you ask a question, it's designed to answer that question. Now, the question could be 42, gray, I don't know, I was wrong, whatever, okay? But as long as you ask the right question, that's what it's designed to do. The speed is neither here nor there, okay? And you try and accelerate the process as far as it is plausible. Humans, however, are impatient, okay? If I have, speaking about diseases, I'm a biomedical scientist. If I have obesity, now I want to be unobese now. I want to take all the, right? If I have cancer, if I have COVID, if I have AIDS, if I have whatever, I want to be cured now. I don't want to be cured 10 years from now. I won't be around to enjoy the being cured because I'd be uncured. And so that's the point. this creates a vacuum. Okay, this creates a space where then people feel, with no malicious intent, that the consumer, the human being, feels that they need to occupy the space with information. Okay, now, and then we end up with stuff like this. Now, this original is a little, some of it is a bit dated, because this an original version of this talk was written, a publishing house wanted me to give a talk, some reflections. And so this an initial version was written in a peak of rage against the dual disasters of Trump and Brexit. Okay? And so hence some of the same. But we've talked about vaccines already today. People begin to fill the vacuum with stuff that may or may not be right. Okay, I guess that's the point. So here's the thing I need you guys to reflect on with regards to misinformation. Okay? Why do so many people believe what is to others so obviously false? Now, we have heard arguments and technologies, and I think we have actually heard a number of different ways that the misinformation might spread. But why do people believe it in the first place? Look, in some ways, it does depend on who says it. Okay? So I did present, this is from Clean Eating the Dirty Truth, where I do present some documentaries for the BBC, and this one was from Clean Eating the Dirty Truth from 2017, where I investigated clean eating fad diets. Okay? Now this vision of loveliness over here is Deliciously Ella, for those of you who don't know her. And this was 2017, so this was at the time where Instagram was hitting its exponential growth, okay? And she was probably one of the first bona fide food influencers. And she pushes the plant-based diet. I mean, she's gone completely mainstream now. You can go to Waitrose, Tesco's, and see her products. I still speak to her. But what is her expertise? What is her expertise? First, she used to be a model, which is not an expertise. Well, maybe it is, and something, but she's not an expertise, that's the first thing. And for those of you who don't know, she's actually part of the Sainsbury's family. She's one of the heiress of. So I guess that makes her a grocer. But anyway, but I don't think that, but she has millions upon millions upon millions of followers about food intake. Okay? And it depends who says it. This chrome dome character over here is me. Okay? And no one listens to me. It depends who says it. Goop. Now, I don't want to drive clicks to Goop necessarily, but for those of you who live under a rock, Goop is Gwyneth Paltrow's, I don't want to talk too long. Goop is Gwyneth Paltrow's lifestyle webpage. And you can see it. It's, for those of you who can't see it at the back, the tagline is, nourish the inner aspect. I don't even think that's English, but anyway. And then it says, make, and there's a fork and a knife, go buy my expensive jumper. The one thing she does sell, okay, are jade eggs. Now, you can't get them for love nor money. I'm serious, maybe don't Google it on your Raven account, but so these jade eggs are but yay big, 60 quid, 50, 60 quid, something like that. You can't get them for love nor money. Now, these jade eggs are designed for your yoni. Gentlemen, without getting too gynecological, we don't have a yoni. Now, I guess in very many ways, it's your money, you do what you want, don't get it lost, whatever it is, okay? And anyway, this is a little bit slightly facetious, obviously. But actually, it's easy to, it is easy for most people to sweat this aside. Why? Because of this ridiculousness of it, right? It's pretty people selling pretty things, which is, after all, what advertising is, okay? We will always buy stuff from pretty people. We will always buy stuff from pretty people. It's a very sad state of affairs, but this is just the way life works. It's advertising. Now, real toxicity, I want to argue, is when people who appear to be experts, why we're here talking about today, begin to say stuff to each other. Okay? We'll just focus on just on the vaccine argument. We've raised this. We started with David, obviously, talk. So vaccines. Okay. Now you have to remember, okay, to our undying shame, that the entire anti-vaxxer movement, okay, is still being fueled by a guy named Wakefield. Now, the paper has been retracted. It was published in the Lancet. The paper has been retracted. Wakefield has been struck off. He can't practice in this country anymore. So within the circles that matter, some of you say, well, we know it doesn't actually matter, except it does. Okay, even pre-COVID, COVID has just focused our minds on vaccines. Pre-COVID, measles, mumps have been rising everywhere across the world because of anti-vaxxer movements. I've looked up where old Wakefield is. He lives in Texas. This is not the bad thing. He's not bad at all. He lives in Texas. He's married to a supermodel. He's doing fine. Okay? But this absolute thing is right. So let's just break down what people see. So why would you become an anti-vaxxer? Let's just ask that question. Okay? So what people see are obviously two groups of white-coated doctors. One far smaller than the other, I grant you, but nonetheless, two groups of white-coated doctors arguing with each other. Okay? Now imagine if you don't have a biological bone in your body, okay? In a sense where, okay, fine, most of us here probably know more about vaccines than we ever wanted to know, but imagine if you had no GCSE biology, whatever, you have no idea. And so you're now watching this argument not knowing what to believe, which is where your confirmation biases then suddenly reappear. So imagine you are afraid of needles. Imagine if your mom had a bad time the last time she visited the doctor. It's happened to all of us, okay? Whatever the situation is, you are then more likely to believe that the doctor is not going to come along and stab you with a needle, for example, okay? And so when you then look at it, when you have no background information whatsoever in whatever the topic is, your confirmation biases are going to come to play. Now, let's go back to this brake scenario. I'm not obsessed with brakes, but imagine if I were going to buy a new car, okay, and I was only focused on the brakes. And we've established I know nothing about brakes. And so if I'm looking at this, and a nicely dressed person is over here, and I say, are these good brakes? And they tell me, these are fantastic brakes. They're the best brakes. They are German brakes. My confirmation bias is, I like German cars, I buy the car, right? Because I know nothing about brakes. And so that, I think, is the headspace we actually got to get into about what misinformation actually is. Because, and this is the lethal error. The lethal error is to put it down to stupidity and ignorance. It is, okay? A, it's anti-intellectual. B, who has ever changed their mind when you call someone stupid and ignorant? I think it was your point where who, no, any of you with children will know that definitely doesn't work, okay? So we have to get into the head. Why does a person sat across from you, who you're trying to persuade, of whatever it is you're trying to persuade, why do they believe what they believe? Now, until you sort of at least try and understand why they believe what they believe, you're never going to change their mind. You may still fail. I'm not saying that you'll always succeed, but it at least gives you a fighting chance to have a civilized conversation, not with everyone, but with the person sat in front of you who may want their minds changed. And so, I guess, here's the point. Okay, this is my last 2 or 3 slides, then I'll stop. And well, no, maybe I will go into I have some time. I noticed I've been very quick. So look, academics have a particular today to stand up for the truth. And I think many things we've heard today has actually been true. We do, okay? We do. If COVID hasn't showed us anything, that is one of the things it has. We have to stand up. We have to stand up for the truth. We have to tell people what we're doing. We have to be passionate about the truth. Now this takes to the white hat, helmet. That thing, new, every day is a school day. That was a new term for me too. But this is down to the point. Don't fight white lies with, don't fight fire with fire. Because if the person sat opposite you, who already has a confirmation bias against everything you do, okay, catches you in the smallest, in the whitest of little white lies, in just a shifting of the narrative, you've lost them forever. You've lost them forever. So always be passionate about the truth. And just my last few minutes of thoughts, how we tell the truth really, really matters. Okay? So this is my favorite comic ever. It's Calvin and Hobbes, and it was drawn by Bill Watterson. He stopped drawing it in the mid-90s for some unbeknownst reason, but it always has a very timeless quality. You can see this one. I used to hate writing assignments, but now I enjoy them. I realized that the purpose of writing is to inflate weak ideas, obscure poor reasoning, inhibit clarity. Okay? Academia, here I come. I mean, it would be funny, except it's not. Okay? Now, once again, I am not talking about the bubble. Because yes, obviously when we write our papers and our publications, of course, we have to sound like we know what we're talking about, the reviewers. I'm talking about to the 99.999% of the people who have no freaking clue what you're doing. Okay? Using big words completely isolates, it builds a hierarchy where I'm smarter than you. You lose them, and then whatever you're trying to do, be it COVID, be it vaccines, be it obesity, be it diets, everything, you've lost them. Okay, if you're starting to use Latin words and everything, and not everyone did Latin in classics, so you just lose them. How we say actually really matters. So this was actually from the New Yorker, okay, 2016. This was meant to prevent the election of Trump, incidentally. See, these smug pilots have lost touch with regular passengers like us who thinks I should fly the plane. Now, lest you think I am engaging in hyperbole, okay, I did this morning. Now, you go to Google, okay, and you put academics are and let it self-complete, and you can check it. I don't think it's a cookie on my phone, okay? Academics are the worst. We probably are. We're insufferable. I think we are. Academics are cool. I just get the feeling that's because of COVID. Academics are better than sports. Academics are pretentious. Look, I think what you see here is that, yes, there are one or two positive things, but it's largely a negative picture. This is what people think of us. And so my point is that as academics here, we are sat in our, Cambridgey world that we're doing our Cambridgey things, okay? But we have to take time to communicate what it is we're doing properly. I think that just as an example, before I started, I do a lot of, I'm faculty here, but I do a lot of science communication in a larger way than perhaps is normal. The number of, certainly a few years ago, the number of my colleagues who thought I was wasting my time was enormous, okay? It was really, really quite a few of them. Now, I understand there's a zero-sum game. Any minute you are not spent in your lab writing your papers, writing your grant, studying, whatever it is, could be a minute that you could be writing a grant or furthering your career or something like that. But that is a zero-sum game, which it isn't, right? It assumes a number of different things, that it won't make you a better scientist, which I think it did for me. It gave me perspective. Perspective is crucial in academia because otherwise you're in your little tiny world, okay? So it gave me perspective, it made me a better scientist, and I'd like to argue it made society a better place. Okay, now not only because of me, because of my little bit, but I think all of us do need to communicate what we do, because when misinformation hits, whatever it is, we could talk about COVID, we could talk about whatever disease you happen to study, whatever it is, when misinformation hits, and we then get the scenario I'm describing, if you, the expert, have not stood up to at least say something to the media, with all the risks and caveats that entail, or write your little piece for the local magazine, or go to your niece's, nephew's, son's primary school to actually talk about that. If you haven't stood up to spend the little bit of time to do that, someone else who's less of an expert is going to come up and actually do it. Okay, so I have no big thoughts other than that, other than to say, I do think that communicating our research in a palatable fashion outside the Bible is a duty. It's not just something as an extracurricular activity. I think it's something we have to do. I think it's something that we haven't done well enough, and I would argue that it has played a role in some of the issues with a role. We're not solely to blame, but I think it has played a role. Our inability to find the time, the reluctance to find the time to actually communicate our science properly. That's it. I'm gonna stop now. I won't get to the second half. I'm just get to blah 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 blah. See, look, this is I never would have finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Giles. We're opening floor to questions. Any questions for Giles? Okay.
Fantastic talk thing. I feel like I should not give my talk at all. It's all the same. I feel because like I do a lot of science communication, and I feel this is the same perspective. But I feel you are more senior scientists.
Yeah.
Do you have? I assume you have your group in the university who work on the research.
Yeah.
Do you, as a PI, encourage your younger members of your lab to go and do science communication? Because sometimes I know it's not the case with you for sure, but sometimes like professors, they kind of see that this is waste of time, or that you are not the expert, despite like to explain people what DNA or RNA is. Undergrad can do that. But I felt when I was doing especially science communication as an undergrad or something that there is a little bit fear of judgment from more senior members of faculty that like, why you're going and talking, you know nothing, you're not an expert. Do you encourage your students to go there and so on, or did you ever have a situation where you would like stop your senior level colleagues on criticizing that?
So clearly I do, as you might not criticize them. Clearly I do encourage science communication at all different levels. I did get that blowback even. So I think we do need to sort of, we work within whatever your construct of the department is, okay? So I think that it is a changing of, it's going to be a change of the culture about the science communication, and actually it is starting to change slightly. So our promotion documents that we actually fill in, particularly if you're working within university offices, obviously you have scholarship, you have all the normal things you've got to fill in. One of the boxes you have to tick, and yes, it is a box you have to tick at the moment, but it starts with a box, is what your public engagement communication thing is, which means that you have to do something, okay, in order to get promoted. And that's the way you begin, okay, because then you begin to identify the people who are good at it, who are doing it, and you can do a little bit more. So that's the first step. Now, you could still be stuck within a department in which your supervisor, your peers, there is peer pressure coming down which stops you from doing more than you want. Then I think you do have to be pragmatic. It depends how senior you are, right? Okay? So clearly I have more autonomy, I can do whatever the hell I want, within reason. Okay, the university doesn't care as long as they don't embarrass them, which is fair enough. However, you have to be pragmatic within your scenario, right? So I think if you're a PhD student or a postdoc, you're clearly there to do your job, and this is perfectly fine. And if your supervisor is supportive, excellent. If they aren't, and you just are feeling resistance, my view is you complete your training and let whatever it is you're doing, and then let that element figure into your next career move. Because once again, we've got to look at it in the long game. I do think it's a cultural and societal change. I do think everyone needs to do a little bit. Some people will do a lot. In order to do it, we have to change the culture. It is not, but you will only be, not only, your effectiveness as a communicator, particularly if you still love your the science or whatever academia it is you're doing, assumes that you have the job within that science. So you don't want to do it by losing your job. So that's the pragmatism that I would actually employ, but use it to form your decision making the next time around. So that was a very long answer. I'm gonna jump to the next step.
Yeah, I have a related question. I think I agree with you on what you're saying in public engagement. I was wondering, partly thinking of what David was saying in the morning about when he chooses to engage with, say, a journalist, say, or something. So I was wondering, given your experience, like, what are your criteria? Because sometimes, yeah, you should do your homework. Who is asking you for an interview, or who is? But what are your criteria? Assuming you've done your homework, how you choose.
So I have done my criteria. It does depend on who says it. I also have turned down GB News flat out. So there are limits, but I do, to my shame, write for Daily Mail. In fact, every New Year they send me the Daily Mail champagne is excellent champagne. Not fake news. No. But so within a Daily Mail scenario, as an example, two things. Either I know the journalist that's interviewing me, so they haven't screwed me over before. So in other words, they've been good, they've done the thing, and so there are journalists which I've been in a place who I trust. They're not gonna, or I have signed off on copy, which means that if they either interview me or I write something and then they change it because it's not the Daily Mail style, the way I write, obviously, they do change it, where I then get the ability to actually clear the copy. Then I will do it. It's less of a problem, but still, I think we've talked about it. Even with the broadsheets, even with someone like the Guardian, there's still people you can read. This is, oh my God, what is this piece? Still, but I think it's all about trust. It's more difficult, obviously, if you don't have the experience. I would take advice from the press office, because a lot of these things come in from the press office. They find the postdoc who's expert at this particular thing, and if they are saying that, look, someone wants to interview you on this, and if you got any nervousness about it, ask the press office, because then do you know journalist X, and they will, and they said no, they're fine. They've come to us, we've given up. That they've always, so that's the way I would do it. But do the homework. Is the answer.
All right, thank you so much. I'm afraid we have to move on. Thank you so much.